Hey there, this is Matt once again. Welcome back to another review. Me starting my review of the Highlander movies. Yep, all 5 of them will be reviewed on here. I'm not getting to the TV show because I'm not watching 6 seasons of a show that I'm not even that big on. Just not my cup of tea. I'm not a big Adrian Paul guy. I don't hate him, but I've seen bits and pieces of the TV show. I'm not interested. I know there's also one called Highlander the Raven. There's a cartoon, anime. There's been a bunch of stuff with Highlander, but I'm just going to review the first 5 movies, starting with the original from 1986. That came out, did not do much in the US. The company released it, didn't really think much would come of the film. Then they released it overseas. Europe really enjoyed the film. And then it got a lot of success on VHS. And throughout the years, I've had quite a few people ask me to review the Highlander movies. And, I've been picking them up when I do find it for cheaply. So I do have all 5 of them, including bullshit like this, which I'll get to. Thankfully, it was dirt cheap. But the original Highlander, I like the film. It's not one of those things where, for a lot of people, it's their favorite film, or it's in their top 10, or it's in their top 20. That's not the case for me. It would not be in my top 100. But that's not to say this is a bad film. It's not that it gets the film, it's just there are other films I prefer over Highlander. Now, I do like Christopher Lambert, which I know some people pronounce his name Christoph. Maybe that's how it's pronounced overseas or so forth, but I always call it Christopher Lambert. Sean Connery, which I believe he filmed for a week, which they got a lot of footage out of him for that week. He does a really good job as Ramirez. Clancy Brown is a lot of fun as the villain, the Kurgan. Russell Mulcahy directed this. This is definitely the film that brought him popularity. Before this, he did films like Razorback. I love Razorback. Razorback might be my favorite Russell Mulcahy movie. I just think that's just a very underrated creature feature monster movie that gets a lot of shit for some bullshit reasons. But I love Razorback. And he would go do the sequel, which I don't hate the sequel to this, and I'll talk about why next time. It doesn't make sense, it's batshit insane, but I think it's a lot of fun. And then he directed stuff like, did he do? No, he didn't do Gunman. I was thinking of that because Christopher Lambert's in it. Resurrection. He did do that, which I thought was a really good, kind of a ripoff of Seven, but I think it's a damn good flick. Underrated film, Resurrection. Russell Mulcahy did Silent Trigger, I believe was Dolph Lundgren, which I didn't mind. There's some pacing problems, but I thought there's some good bits of action and style. And that's the thing, Russell Mulcahy definitely has a style to him. He did the Resident Evil one in the desert. Well, there's a lot of sand and stuff. The third one, forget what the fuck it was called. The one is a bunch of sand and stuff in it. Now, at one point, Russell Mulcahy was going to do Rambo 3 after this, but then him and Stallone had an argument. They didn't see eye to eye, and then Stallone sort of let him go and got another guy. But yeah, the director of this was going to do Rambo 3, which would have been interesting to see how that. I love Rambo 3. For those who don't know, I reviewed all the Rambo films. I am a Rambo fan, cap and all. And Rambo 3 to me is one of the most underrated sequels of all time, in my opinion, along with Predator 2. That's how much I love Rambo 3. I did a review of all of them, including that one on my channel. With that said, it would have been interesting to see what Russell Mulcahy would have done. Because even in this film, he shows style. The way he uses cranes and sweeps of the camera, whether it be the beginning when Connor MacLeod, Christopher Lambert's character, is watching a pro wrestling match with the Fabulous Freebirds, and the camera like pans over the wrestling ring and it's going towards Connor MacLeod, the character, or during the sword fight at the end where he fights Clancy Brown, and they're in that empty room with the blue light and the windows in the background, and the camera sweeps around back and forth on the sword fight. Again, the guy has a good visual style to him, which I do appreciate. From what I understand, the first choice for this character was Kurt Russell. There was some written interview with Russell Mulcahy where he mentioned Kurt Russell was very close to playing this, but I believe Goldie Hawn told him not to do it, which worked out because then he went on to do Big Trouble in Little China, which, yes, by the way, I do know there's talks of Big Trouble in Little China, the remake. Oh, now it's going to be a sequel. Whatever. Oh, yeah, like Jumanji 2. Also with The Rock. Fuck that movie. I love Big Trouble in Little China. It doesn't need a fucking sequel. The Rock already did that kind of movie with the remake, The Race to Witch Mountain, and I didn't mind that movie. I'll just go watch that movie. But anyway, that's... Sorry, got off topic. But Kurt Russell would have been interesting, but it's nice that Christopher Lambert got the role. And again, Kurt Russell playing Jab Burn, that was destiny. That's one of his best roles. So it worked out in the end. I think also Mark Sainer, the Beastmaster, was approaching one time to do this role. Would have been interesting. I know that's always the funny thing, is that there's supposed to be a Scotsman, but Christopher Lambert is French. And then Sean Connery is Scott. He is Scottish, but then he plays sort of an Egyptian from Spain. Yeah, it's like you have a Scotsman who's not playing a Scotsman. He's playing the Egyptian. And then a Frenchman playing a Scotsman. So I know that's always the funny thing about that. So yeah, Kurt Russell, Mark Sainer. I think at one point they wanted Sting, which no, I think this was the role he was born to play. Now again, there are movies with Christopher Lambert that I enjoy more than this. I would put Mortal Kombat above this. I would put Gunman above this. I would say Resurrection I would put above this. But again, this is a good film. It has some nice sword fights. The idea is interesting about the immortals and great taglines. There can be only one. You have a soundtrack featuring songs by Queen, Princes of the Universe, wonderful song. Starts off in the opening credits. We're the princes of the universe. Great song. You also have Who Wants to Live Forever. And I'm doing a shitty job of it. That's another good song. The song at the end. Again, nice that Queen is on the soundtrack. That was a nice choice. I like when movies do that. You don't see a lot of movies do that anymore, where all the songs are pretty much one band. Like you had AC/DC do Maximum Overdrive. You had Queen do Flash Gordon. Well, they did the score as well, but here they just did the songs. I guess also some additional music. And the music score by Michael Kamen. Which his score was fine. It fit the film well. And yeah, you don't see that a lot nowadays. Which is too bad. I kind of like that type of gimmick. Makes it a little bit interesting, a little bit more unique. And I guess this is the director's cut. I don't know how much footage is put back in. Oh, it says there's 6 minutes of extra footage. Now, Connor MacLeod, Christopher Lambert's character, after watching his pro wrestling match, he has flashbacks to his homeland of Scotland. And then you get a really cool sword fight scene in a parking garage. Some nice directing touches, the reflection off this guy's glasses, movement with the camera, when the swords spark, there's a lot of sparks flying around, like when they hit each other, or when they hit a piece of metal, sparks fly. I think I read somewhere something they did that with, like, hook up a car battery to it. Which I like those sparks. Granted, you're wondering why the fuck are these swords sparking like this. But it gives a nice visual look and energy to the sword fight scenes. Of course, I wonder if you did that nowadays, people would like, wait a minute, the logic police says they wouldn't be sparking like that. What the fuck? In other words, suck the fun out of it. And that's why I know there's been talks of a remake, but you can't remake this movie. I know at one time there was talks of a remake here with Ryan Reynolds. No, they'll do it someday, but even though I'm not like the hardcore fan of Highlander like other people are, it's just a pointless. Because the thing is, at the end of the day, you only really needed one movie. I mean, the movie ends where there can be only one, and then there's only one. But then every time, the next one, there's 50 more. That's sort of my problem with the franchise, is that there could be only one. Then there's only one. And then there's 50 more the next time. That's why I don't get why there's a fucking TV series. He wins the prize. I have fun with the sequel. The third film is okay, but it's way too much a remake of this one, where it's person in New York, flashbacks were a bit of their training. They fall in love with a person who does studies either with the sword here, with Roxanne Hart's character. I think that was Roxanne Hart. Could be wrong. Or in the final dimension with looking at the fabric, falling in love. Here's an enemy. Start with a K. Kane, Kurgan. These are a point where they're both driving and steering the shit out of the passenger, driving crazy. Ends with them riding off into the sunset. Everything's happy. It's over. But the reason they did that, and it's, again, the final dimension I find okay, and I'll get to why. But the reason they did that is because they tried to do so different with part 2, and a lot of people got pissed, so they wanted to go back to a very, very similar formula. So while the first 3 movies I don't mind, again, most people would say you only needed one. There should be only one movie. And again, I like the second one quite a bit. So to me, it's alright if there's 2. But, anyway, I'm getting off track. One interesting thing about this movie is that Christopher Lambert, in real life, he has very poor eyesight. That's why a lot of times he wears glasses, like me. And that's why during fight scenes, sword fights, he's not the most fluid. He's not... Well, I'll give Adrian Paul this. The snippets I see and the movies he did, he's a much more efficient swordsman. He's much more fluid with his movements of the sword compared to Christopher Lambert. But I still enjoy Christopher Lambert and what he does. But yeah, I just see a lot of people don't know he's not the most efficient swordsman. Again, because of his poor eyesight, which would cause, once in a while, an accident happen, an injury. I still think the sword fights are a lot of fun, though. The flashbacks, they definitely give the history of Christopher Lambert's character, surviving this battle. People think he's, Lucifer must be a part of him. They exile him, kick him out. He falls in love. I don't remember if we see the first time he fell in love with the girl. I remember him being exiled. He's by himself. Then I swear I remember the next scene, he's in love with someone. I'm like, did they show the first time these characters met? They must have. I must have just blanked it out somehow. But still, it's a sweet love story. Sean Connery appears. Sean Connery's a lot of fun. It's definitely one of his best roles because he brings a nice sense of humor, nice banter between the two characters. They work well together, which I also enjoy in the sequel. And they have a good back and forth. Sean Connery dumping Christopher Lambert into the ocean and letting him drown to make him realize that he is immortal. And the dialogue they have with each other. We are brothers. You can't drown, you fool. Telling him, training him in sword fighting. Some nice landscapes on the mountains while they're sword fighting, training. And telling him all the rules, that there'll be a gathering when there's only a couple left to fight for the prize. You can't have children. There's this bad guy named the Kurgan. If he wins, mortal men will suffer eternity in darkness. In the end, there can be only one. And then the Kurgan comes, kills Sean Connery. You find out later rapes Christopher Lambert's woman. Lambert doesn't know that until much later. I think one scene they add in director's cut, there's a World War II scene where Christopher Lambert saves his little girl, gets shot, and then gets a Nazi and says, "What do you say, Jack? You're the master race," and shoots the Nazi. And that little girl becomes his adopted daughter, who's now looks much older than him because he's immortal. I think that's the character Rachel, which then they blow up in Highlander Endgame. That movie's a piece of shit, which I'll get to. On the one line he says, which is a reference to a Queen song, "How come you're alive? It's a kind of magic." But it didn't seem forced or clunky. And Christopher Lambert, he didn't really know the English language when he got hired. He had to, I think he was in Greystoke, which I still haven't seen to this day, his Tarzan movie. But he had like a little inkling of but not much. But I like Christopher Lambert. I think he has a unique presence, a unique look. And I've seen bits and pieces, but I haven't seen all the way through The Hunted in the 90s. Adrenaline Fear the Rush. Really, not much happens when you actually watch the film. It's a very short film, and even how short the film is, it's like, this seems like something that would have, it seems like it would have worked better as an episode of a TV show, Adrenaline Fear the Rush, really. And if you cut all the bullshit filler, it would have been as long as a TV show episode, really. But yeah, he was good in it, though. That's why I like Christopher Lambert. And Clancy Brown, he's chewing the scenery, but he's a lot of fun. He's got this mark from Sean Connery back in the day, so he has a scar of his slit throat. He's, just messing with people, like the scene in the church, "Happy Halloween, ladies," and he's at the nuns. When he throws this old guy out of a car and he gets in and there's this old woman, he's like, "Mom!" He's driving all crazy, scaring the shit out of her. Clancy Brown's a lot of fun. Very entertaining. I know there's one story that when he had the fight with Sean Connery, he just blasted in and put a sword down and scared the shit out of Sean Connery, and Sean Connery got pissed and left the set. And Clancy Brown had to apologize, and I think a little bit of that in the commentary, which is Russell Mulcahy produces Peter S. Davis and William N. Panzer, and then there's also in some bits of trivia on IMDb. Kind of surprised there's not like a full-length documentary on the Highlander, considering how popular it is as a cult film. Maybe you get like little snippets or something, but I'm surprised there's not like a full-blown, like packed collector's edition Blu-ray that you see like these other things get, like a hour-long documentary, like a new one, I should say. Again, I'm surprised because it's still a very popular movie. And again, there's a lot of stuff to like. The fight scene at the end when they're on top of a sign, and then you see the entire sign collapsing. Nice spectacle. And yeah, the fight scenes are cool. The montage of back in the day with the Who Wants to Live Forever song, when you're seeing the woman get older and older, but Christopher Lambert's character stay the same. It's sweet, tugs at the heartstrings. Then some very fun stuff with Clancy Brown's villain. The only two problems I have with the movie is the pacing. Granted, people say because it's all the director's cut, but it's only 6 minutes longer. I don't know, the pacing just felt a little bit dragging at times. I think also I didn't buy the new love story that appears in modern time with this woman who's a forensic scientist, looks up this sword. Um, yeah, at least she does some stuff like she at least tries to help out Christopher Lambert, which I appreciate during his fights with the Kurgan. He's either throwing a weapon to Lambert or to Connor MacLeod, or trying to hit Kurgan on the back of the head to help him out. But character-wise, romance-wise, it didn't really seem like there was much of a connection. It's like all of a sudden they're in love with each other. It's just, oh, I want that sword. Don't you only think? Do you only think of yourself? And then later on, she comes back and they have a sex scene. And I actually bought the stuff he had with Virginia Madsen in the sequel better. I would say I like the romance in the sequel a bit more. And the actress wasn't bad, but I don't know. I can't say I bought it really. I didn't buy these two falling in love with each other. I bought the love story back in the day. I would just been maybe with the montage and the music and a bit of sweetness to it, a bit more than the modern day. So yeah, the romance, the love story of the modern time I didn't buy between him and I guess it's Roxanne Hart. And the pacing, I just thought dragged a little bit. Like you have this police investigation that pretty much goes nowhere, which is another thing they do in Highlander: The Final Dimension. Because again, that one really does copy this one a lot. But they want to be on the safe side since Part 2 tried to do a lot of different stuff. And the police investigation angle, I think one of the cops is from this film I enjoyed called See No Evil, Hear No Evil, like this older police officer. Again, it doesn't really lead anywhere. Just the looking for it. They think Christopher Lambert did it. This one guy who, for some reason, has a bunch of guns in his trunk, sees Clancy Brown fighting another immortal, sees the immortal's head get cut off. The guy shoots Clancy Brown. Clancy Brown, which, one thing I thought was cool, he had a sword, but it was in a suitcase. And he opens up the suitcase and puts it together like a gun, which I don't think I've ever seen that done before or since, where someone opens up a suitcase and puts together a sword, again, as if it was a sniper rifle. So little touches like that were interesting. But yeah, this guy, and this like fuck off sword stabs right through the guy, and somehow the guy survives to be in the hospital and tell the cops, no, it's not Christopher Lambert. It was this big, tall motherfucker with a star on his throat. Which is why later on in the fun church scene where Clancy Brown confronts Christopher Lambert, he shaved his head to hide his identity more. So yeah, the police investigation didn't really go anywhere. The romance in the modern time I didn't really buy the most into. And I just thought the pacing dragged, maybe because of those two things. But I still liked the film. The flashbacks gave some nice scenery to what's supposed to be Scotland. Some nice style of the camera work with Russell Mulcahy, who I believe had his hand in music videos, I believe. interesting story about what it would be like to be an immortal and the rules they implement. Great, like I said, great lines of dialogue. There can be only one. The idea of when you kill someone, the quickening and all this, stuff exploding, sparks flying, and then at the end, like these weird cartoony like creatures. And I was watching it and I'm like, it looks like he's ready to go to hell with all these creatures, like evil. They all look evil. Like he gets the power of wisdom. Like he knows what people are thinking all over the world. He's mortal. He can have children. That was the prize. But when the quickening is happening, it's like all this evil figures, like monsters and death, and it's like he's going, oh my God, it's the end of the world. It's the apocalypse. But apparently those creatures are good guys. I don't know like what the deal was with all the creature formations of the when the quickening. When you watch it, you didn't watch it. Like it makes it seem like something much more evil is about to happen, but that's not the case. Either the soundtrack by Queen, the duels, the sense of humor. Like this one random flashback when he's talking with a friend and the other immortal guy, and that guy later gets killed by the Kurgan. But they're talking about this thing that happened where this guy back in the day wants a duel, and he keeps stabbing Christopher Lambert, and Lambert keeps getting back up, and the guy keeps stabbing him. Oh, you missed me, and keep doing. So there's some nice place of humor with that scene, again, as well as the back and forth between these two. Overall, good film. Pretty decent movie. These guys worked well together. And granted, really Greystoke was the introduction to Christopher Lambert, but I think for most people it was this movie. I don't know what the first time the first film probably was Mortal Kombat that I saw Christopher Lambert in. That was '95, and then saw films like Gunman, and then Resurrection, and then I think it was later on I saw the Highlander movies. So I didn't watch these when I was a kid. So yeah, I don't know what else to say. I'd just be repeating myself. But either way, thanks for watching. And yeah, this came out in 1986, which was a pretty good year for movies. Damn good year for movies. I mean, Cobra, which I love. And then The Golden Child, which I also love. I think Maximum Overdrive, which I also love. Aliens, Big Trouble in Little China, The Fly remake. A lot of good movies in '86. Did you say one of our better years for movies? Think about it. But thanks for watching. Take care, and we'll see you later.